How's it going, everybody? Nikki D here, coming at you live, man, yet again. Today we're taking another look at an online dating video, but today I want to read something that someone wrote on Reddit. We're going to keep them their name out of it, just to keep it kind of PG-13 here. But I want to just read the story that someone has presented and the struggles that they've gone through with online dating. So without any further ado, let's get actually right into it. Yeah, so this is a fellow male mammal. Made a post here recently on Reddit about Hinge and Bumble and the story and the difficulty going along with it. So again, we're just gonna read through it, probably just paragraph by paragraph, and we'll comment as we go along. Because I thought this was one of the most relatable posts I've ever seen, and just the absolute struggle that and that can happen. Okay, this isn't every experience, but this is going to be some people are definitely going to face this. So I get a match on Hinge and Bumble, or I meet them in person. I meet someone in person. Okay, I have to have witty banter with her, build a level of comfort, and ask her out at a high point. If I ask her too quickly, she won't respond. If there are too many days, weeks, or in person go by, she'll stop responding. The sweet spot to ask her is around the 36-hour mark, or some weeks in person, out of our first message. Okay, so I just kind of read all over the place sometimes. So yeah, what he's saying is like you have to be witty. You need to build a level of comfort, and then at a high point of that conversation, you need to then initiate and ask for the date. Okay. If you ask a little too quickly, you can scare people off. They get nervous. They won't do it. And if you take too long, it'll just be like a pen pal, and they just won't respond. They'll just ghost because someone else has asked them out. Chances are, yeah, it's definitely a game. I don't think anyone disputes that, and it's unfortunate how this post just continues to be relatable. Okay, I have to logistically plan and pay for the date. I have to know the spot pretty well so I can lead the way. If there's somewhere I'm not familiar with, my outcomes are a lot worse, I've noticed. I have to know the chessboard well. And I'll read the next one here. I have to plan and usually pay for the second to third date as well. Now, I'll argue the second and third date, like, you don't always have to pay for those. I mean, I know the old saying goes, whoever asks out the other person should pay for the date, which, again, let's just call a spade a spade. 99.9% of the time, it's the guy. So, okay. That's why I think a lot of guys will initiate on coffee dates, because if you are going to pay, well, then you're only paying a toonie, right? So, and for both people, it's cheap and it's quick. So that's why I'm an advocate of the coffee date. Saying that you have to logistically plan and pay for the date, though, is absolutely true. There are so many situations where I've had to just plan out dates. I've like literally one recently where a lady was like, I was like, oh, like maybe we should hook something up here. Let's do something. Let's get together. And I mean, it's even down to the point that I have to pick the location, the date, the time, the everything, right? And I tried to give her a little wiggle room there, to be like, oh, like where do you want to go, kind of thing. And you just get nothing back. So it's rather unfortunate. And knowing the place really well is actually really, really funny. Sometimes you can it depends on the person. Like, you can get away with that, where you're like, okay, like we're both just kind of walk in somewhere and check it out. That can happen and can work really well. But a lot of the time it won't. It just depends. It just really depends on the person. If you get a person, like if you go on a date with somebody and they're really flexible, they're like, I'm up to anything. Like, I like exploring and checking something out. You've got a person that will do that. But if you got a person that is the opposite of that, like it's not going to happen, right? They're going to be very specific. They're going to I want to know where we're going. I want to know when we're going. And I don't, and you need to know that spot. Like, you need, obviously you don't need to know the menu inside and out, but if you're going to take a girl to an arcade, you need to know, like, where it is, what is there a cost, like, stuff like that, just basic level, you can't go in blind. Okay, so next part here. I have to break the touch barrier. That burden is entirely on me. I have to initiate the hugging, hand-holding, kissing, making out, and sex within a window of time of only a few dates. If I fail to do so, I get friend-zoned and rejected. I have to be good at reading her body language to make sure it's okay to progress things further. A good kiss on the second date puts me in a good position for the third date. I am actually a advocate of that as well, the kiss on the second date and not the first date. I am big on that because I am not great at reading body language. I'm okay, but not that great. So I would rather be comfortable myself and get to know somebody rather than just try to make things awkward on a first date. So I just avoid it completely. But if you do move to a second date, that is, I think, when a kiss should be initiated. It makes way more sense to me about moving forward with that. But yeah, 100% correct. I've really only had one girl ever try to initiate the touch barrier, which is, again, like a touch on the arm, like a hug, that kind of stuff. I mean, a hug is kind of mutual. I don't find that's a big deal. But yeah, like, just to initiate the touch barrier to some degree is almost, I would say, like 99%, 95% is going to be the guy. I've had, I think, 2 in 31 years, right, that have at least attempted to do that. So, yeah, it is absolutely true. And it's a lot of pressure, right? It's a lot of pressure. So I can totally get where this guy's coming from. I have to be an entertainer who is confident, ultra confident, who cannot make a single mistake or they get turned off. I cannot even say hello wrong. Women get swarmed by men who fly in from other places to meet them. I'd argue that a little bit. Like, you could, like, I mean, again, it kind of depends on the person, but I don't think, like, you need to nitpick that much. But I would say, instead of, like, the entertainer, I would actually argue that you kind of have to, like, lead. You have to steer a conversation. And I think he talks about this a little bit further down. I could be wrong, but I'll say it now. That, yeah, you have to. You have to lead the conversation. You have to ask leading questions. You have to, and you're really, really fortunate if your partner that you're on the date with is actually doing the same thing, because then you can have a really good conversation. But it is one of the most brutal things in the world is to try to have a conversation with someone who, like, clearly doesn't want to have it. Like, who like, if they're closed off, their body language is reserved. Like, their arms are just crossed and they're just sitting here looking at you like this. It doesn't give you, like, if someone's, like, leaning in and having a conversation with you and asking you questions, right, that's good. That's what you want. But when they're just, like, closed off and reserved and you're asking questions and they're just giving you answers, like, there's no follow-up, they're just, like, it's just an answer and you're like, oh, right on. Like, that's the problem, right? So that's a big test, is to see what's going on there. And unfortunately, yeah, I've just got rid of dates when that happens sometimes. Like, I'll just end it, because it's like, okay, clearly you don't want to be here and I don't want to waste your time, right? And I don't want to waste my time. Like, I want to we can just move forward. There's no hard feelings. If we're in the midst of a date, date 3, without even pecking yet, so, like, having a kiss, I'm quickly running out of time. I'll never want to see me ever again. I have to get the airplane lifted off the ground. 100% again on the touch barrier. You have to move that forward. And it's unfortunate too, but that's just, it seems to be a lot of the realities of the day. And that's what I mean about the pressure, right? Like, the woman's not going to try to initiate the kiss most of the time. So, or some kind of, whatever. But the kiss, like, seals it. That you're like, that's pushing the touch barrier, right? Like, that's what you should be doing. I have to keep things alive between dates by sending a photo of a good sunset I saw on a jog or something. If I text too much, it's needy. Not enough, I'll fizzle out, or it'll fizzle out. The rule of thumb is just a bit to keep the flame going. And that's a good point as well. I realized that actually with myself, as I would text way too quickly, like way too fast. And I think a lot of people, like, some people will think that's, like, overkill. Like, you don't need to think about it like that. Like, I don't need to metagame. But I think you do, because I think the same thing when someone texts me really, really quickly. Like, if I text you and within 1 to 2 minutes you've already answered me and you're consistently like that, it can look needy, right? It can look very needy. And he's got a good point. Like, you need to keep that conversation going, but, like, not too much or too little. Too little, they just lose interest and they'll go to someone else. Too much, they might think you're needy and go to someone else. Right? So there's a lot of mind games that unfortunately go into it, and I don't like it. I have to act like things that naturally happen on its own. The first kiss while the sun was setting by the oak tree, yeah, that was planned. I was nervous walking there and afraid I'll fumble the ball, but I'm glad I didn't. Even though I've had this date several times. I've been through this date several times to get it right. Yeah, good point as well. Like, you have to plan it, and I've done that many, many times. Like, I'll go to the Palladium or like, the arcade, or we'll go bowling, right? And that second date, I've got it in my mind. I'm like, okay, I've got to get a kiss in here, and how do I maneuver this? You know what I mean? When's the good moment, right? So that's a good point as well. The first time we're about to have sex, I can't say, hey, for our third date, come over and make out and let's have sex. Like, do you like wine and board games would be the counter. If so, red or white. Are you free right now? You have to have plausible deniability, because if they come over and they're like, oh, I didn't want to have sex. And you're like, oh, I didn't mean it. I said board games and wine. That's kind of funny, but that's true as well. And again, you may have to initiate that too. Probably so. The whole thing truly feels like playing the first few levels of a video game and is entirely exhausting and soul-crushing. I just wish I could meet a woman where I don't have to do this stuff, but I can't even get a date to sit if I'm not playing the game. And that's just the entirety of the post. I think overall, I mean, I think it's just really relatable, and I think a lot of people get stuck in this. You can get out of it. There was a comment, there was one of the number one comments that actually said my thoughts exactly, was like, it's just don't even worry about it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You don't get matches, you don't get matches. Oh, she didn't want to go out again? Don't worry about it. I literally have a girl asking me to, like, we're trying to figure out a date, and I've just lost interest. Like, I don't even want to figure out the date now. Because and don't worry about it, right? There's going to be more. That's the thing with online dating. There's always an option, and I think people need to look at that instead. Be like, you know what? There's always going to be another match coming up at some point. Like, I can look into that one, right? Oh, that girl just liked me on Bumble. Okay, cool. I'll move forward there. Because it's like, why not invest in someone who's respecting you more than just, in just that, just like answering or something. But playing the game, unfortunately, yeah, it is a factor. All right, I don't know. Well, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Take it easy. Peace.